we shouldn't wait too long before getting to our next topic. Sewage. After 7 years of planning, millions of dollars spent, there are still a lot of questions and a lot of concerns, especially in the Esquimalt community, about the Capital Regional District sewage treatment plans. The plan will leave Esquimalt right now with 3 facilities, the existing one at Macaulay Point, but also new ones at McLaughlin and along Viewfield Road. Now, the question, again coming from the community on this topic, the first of 3 questions. What will you and your party do to ensure cost-effective, reliable, land-based technologies are considered prior to selection of locations? And we're going to step this one to the left again and begin with Susan Lowe, Green Party.
The Green Party recognizes that we are moving to land-based treatment as a political policy decision. While we embrace using the precautionary principle to reduce our impacts on the marine environment, we don't want to see this project rushed through, and we don't want the environmental impacts moved from the water to land or air. So the question of technology has to go hand in hand with the location so that the treatment we choose is not constrained by the size or the soil conditions on the site. We would favor a distributed model or a multi-site model to provide more opportunities for projects like Dockside Green or Capital City Centre to use best practices in treatment that are appropriate to their location. The choice of location has to be an open and transparent process to respect community values. And I understand that we're going to start seeing more sites come forward from landowners who are willing to have spaces around Greater Victoria, including at the hospital, included in the discussion for potential sewage treatment.
Maurine Karagianis, NDP.
Thanks very much, Ryan. So I'd also like to mention here, I know there are people here from Vic West, because this issue is not just Esquimalt, it's Esquimalt and Vic West as it currently exists because of the Viewfield site. So I think that the province currently requires best practice and best technologies, and it would certainly be the duty of whoever is elected to make sure that that happens and that that oversight and accountability is provided. But I also think that the province can play another role. I think that it's possible for the province to help lend some expertise in this discussion. And I know that we are all very concerned about the lack of consultation, the lack of clarity from the current CRD process, where we are not sure what we're building or where we're building it. There are certainly some new sites that are being discussed, and I'd like to get this up front, that I know I talked about Macaulay on CBC. That was in no way meant to be an indication of a site-specific requirement or pursuit on my behalf. I was simply talking about Esquimalt's various sort of options here. But I think that the province could bring some expertise to bear, and I also think that if we actually moved the funding into a more assured position, now I know Ida Chong said the funding is there at the end of the process, I'd like to make sure it's there earlier so that communities don't have to bear the cost of that.
Josh Steffler, Independent.
Thank you. I have stated many times that we do not need a new sewage treatment facility. What is going out into the ocean is 99% water. While people may say that there are 3 levels of government paying for this, there's only one taxpayer, and that's you. You pay the municipal taxes, you pay the provincial taxes, and you pay the federal taxes. Are we so blind to think that we need to spend $1 billion on the 1% of stuff that goes out of the outfalls that is not water? Not only are we looking at spending $1 billion, but we're looking at spending it on old technology and technology that creates more problems than it solves. The idea that what is proposed is green is laughable. The sludge plant that is possibly going on Viewfield Road will emit tons of nitrogen oxide, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and fine particulate matter. And we have the NDP proposing taxes on flaring, which I think would see the cost rise even more. So the time is now to say no to the current project, cut our losses, and look into better, greener tech before moving forward on this silly waste of $1 billion. Thank you.
And once again, the question, what will you and your party do to ensure cost-effective, reliable land-based technologies are considered prior to selection of locations? With the Liberal Party, Chris Ricketts.
Thanks, Ryan. Firstly, we got to realize that Greater Victoria is growing. We've been mandated both by the provincial government and the federal government to treat our sewers, so we've got to do that. We can't go back and reinvent that, but we can reinvent the process that they're taking. As a provincial government, we can't mandate the CRD to do anything. The CRD is an autonomous government. They have been given the job to come up with a sewer plan. What we can do from the provincial government, as Maurine says, is offer expertise through environmental protection to see if we can help them, if they'll listen to us, get a better plan. We don't like what they want to do in Esquimalt. I don't think we'll ever get the Viewfield site there. There's too much negativity around it. They did not consult with us when they came out. They just bought the land. So I think Viewfield's off the map. They won't go ahead with that. My government would not force Esquimalt to take that. Esquimalt's already said we don't want it. They have to do the zoning. So the provincial government would not force Esquimalt. So I don't think that's going to happen. But we have to go back and look at the whole plan and see if a bunch of maybe smaller plants throughout the region, which is fair for everyone, and give the Dockside Green example, better effluent, better treatment. There's better technologies out there. If the CRD looks, they can find them.
Now, I had said there were 3 sewage treatment questions. I missed one. There's 4, so we're going to continue with this category. And a lot of our candidates just then mentioned cost. And the cost estimate I have in front of me, I believe from the CRD, is $783 million, potentially climbing higher. So cost is a factor. And another major debate has been, and not just among the communities, but among scientists as well, whether or not land-based treatment is an environmental priority, whether or not this project needs to be done at all. Those questions have still been debated right up until now as we proceed. So the question, next question on sewage, again coming from submissions from the community, is as follows. Would you support a provincial independent review demonstrating that whatever is done ultimately benefits the taxpayer and the environment more than our existing marine-based system? And I believe we're back to Maurine Karagianis, NDP, to kick off answers to that question.
Thanks very much. I think that we all have to respect the fact that this is a municipal process, and the CRD is our representatives in this. So I don't want to in any way indicate that the provincial government or representatives would come in and somehow run this process, because I think it is a local government process. But I also think it is the job of local representatives, your elected municipal councils, to ensure that they have got the best information, that they are pursuing the best practices. That is what's required by the provincial government. So, if we lend some expertise, as we have discussed here, do we need an independent review? I want to be very respectful of your elected local officials who have the task of carrying through on this, and I want to make sure that we get the best possible plan. I mean, we all know that we have a personal stake here in making sure that Esquimalt doesn't bear an undue burden of processing responsibility for the entire region. You know, in working with your mayor, with Barb Desjardins, we have worked very closely on this, but I want to make sure that we are getting the best possible outcome of this, but in a respectful, supportive way with your local government representatives. So, sorry, can I just mention one thing? Josh mentioned something about we're going to tax flaring. We're going to put a carbon tax on oil and gas flaring. I think he's talking about a different kind of gas, and we're not going to tax that.
Back to the question, would you support a provincial independent review demonstrating that whatever is done ultimately benefits the taxpayer and the environment more than our existing marine-based system for sewage? Our next answer comes from Josh Steffler, Independent.
Thank you. So, of course, you know, who would say no to an independent review? But a provincial review will not be an independent review because of the political party in charge. It will be a politically biased view with the ideology of the party in charge weighing heavily on the review. Everything the government does must benefit the taxpayer, and piling on a system that is not designed to take advantage of our unique location and environment is insane and the height of government incompetence. If it is true that 99% of the effluent coming out of the outfalls is water, then is it not true that we have a public perception problem and not a pollution problem? The whole idea of land-based treatment seems silly and reeks of backroom deals and secret contracts designed to get political favors paid off and make some people a lot of money at the expense of taxpayers. Victorians can be proud that they have built a natural sewage treatment system that fully meets triple bottom line criteria: social, economic, and environmental. Why should we kowtow to the uninformed opinions of outsiders who know little about our unique marine environment of the Juan de Fuca Strait? Thank you.
Next up, from the Liberal Party, Chris Ricketts.
Thanks very much. We have to have the treatment system. We can't just keep dumping what we've got into the ocean. It's not, as Josh says, although it's mostly water, there's heavy metals, there's pharmaceuticals that all go out there. We have to stop that. As far as the politicians getting rich off of this, everyone's mad at the CRD and they're not making anyone pleased, so I don't know how Josh figures they're getting money unless you know something I don't know, because they're just digging themselves a hole and they're making everyone upset, especially in Esquimalt. The provincial review, when Ida Chong was minister responsible and committed the funds, she said we must have an oversight committee of 7 professionals, experts in the field, to look at this. So I think the province, my province's provincial government, is doing what they can to ensure that we do get the best system, that we use the best technologies. But it's got to come from you. You're the ones out there that got to say, we want a better system for our municipality. Whether you live in Esquimalt or Colwood or Vic West, we need to ensure that we get the best treatment for our very expensive system, because it's going to be here for a long time. So you got to keep up the pressure on the CRD, and I'll work with you.
Green Party, Susan Lowe.
I can answer this very simply. Yes, I absolutely support an independent review to test the economic, social, and environmental benefits of the proposed wastewater treatment plan. It is an MLA's job to steward the taxpayer dollars that are being spent by the province. A reading of Division 3 of the Municipal Wastewater Regulations calls for an environmental impact study for wastewater treatment facilities. However, the Liberal government created a loophole for the CRD to avoid this accountability step so that they could push through land-based treatment before the Olympics. As an MLA, I will be strongly advocating that we close this loophole. The NDP has promised a Made in BC environmental assessment process for a variety of projects, and I will be vocal and persistent in demanding that the NDP apply that to this billion-dollar infrastructure project. And as a Green Party MLA, I will be able to voice the concerns of this community without being silenced by the agenda of my party.
Our third question on the topic of sewage treatment. With all of this in mind, if there were any changes, what would you and your party do to ensure that system changes would adequately meet land, air, and water regulatory requirements? And we start one step to the left with Josh Steffler, Independent.
Thank you. Like I have said before, I will oppose any plan that does not benefit taxpayers, and I stand in a unique position for our riding. While the NDP and Liberal candidates can say they will oppose it, they are also bound to their leader's decision and the party whip. And we have seen numerous times in the past where the party comes before the riding. I am not bound by these contracts. My loyalty is to the community first and always, never to a political party, and I would never be whipped to vote for something that benefits a political party before the community that the MLA is supposed to represent. There is a clear danger that the party structure may well force or whip their candidate to toe the party line. An independent MLA can look at all of the requirements and listen to the people of the community first and bring those voices to the legislature. I will listen and bring the community voice to ensure we are protected and to oppose any changes in regulatory requirements that would make the changes politically expedient. We have very smart and very technologically savvy people, and I believe that we should be listening to them to bring new ideas forward rather than bringing old ideas back to the people. Thank you.
Chris Ricketts, Liberal Party.
Thanks, Ryan. Again, I think BC has some of the best environmental protection laws in the country. Anything that has to be built will be tested, will be looked at. That's partly why the BC government says we're not going to pay for it till it's up, it's running, and it's certified. We don't want to put money into something that's not running well. So hopefully the CRD listens to that and think about what kind of a system they're doing and how they're going to do it, because they know that money will not be forthcoming, some $248 million, unless they have the right system in place. I think what we have to do is push the CRD to make sure we have the right system. There's many systems out there that we can be looking at. Again, look at sorry, I can't remember the name, the green down by the old Princess Mary. They're dockside green, sorry. There's systems out there. There's a system going into Colwood, water reclamation, heat reclamation. CRD won't even talk to these people. Again, we've got to push them to say, find the best technology, make sure we get it going, and use it for our system to benefit all the people of Greater Victoria. Thank you.
Green Party, Susan Lowe.
We must make the regulatory requirements for air, land, and sea discharges absolutely clear and make sure that those requirements are being applied to the CRD's sewage plans. There has been a lot said about the water discharges, but no information provided about the air or land impacts of the land-based treatment. The estimates that I've seen from Winnipeg's sewage treatment plant, which is approximately the same size, indicate that lifetime CO2 emissions could be up to 350,000 tons of CO2 alone. There's also nitrous oxide emissions and particulate matter emissions. The province must demand to know what kind of particulate matter we'd be releasing into the air or what kind of groundwater effects result from the disposal of sludge. A distributed model allows us to use first-class, world-leading technology like the one at Dockside Green or things proposed for Capital City Centre to optimize sewage treatment instead of settling for the old-school anaerobic digestion process that's being proposed for the CRD site right now.
New Democrats, Maurine Karagianis.
Thanks very much, Ryan. So I think we've repeated a couple of times here in previous answers that the province requires absolutely best practice. They require leading edge technology. We are certainly not there yet in the region. In fact, I'm not even particularly clear, and I'm sure none of you are either, on what it is we're building and where we are building it. Now, I know the Greens talk about many small plants. I'm not sure where those would go. I mean, we all know how we feel about Viewfield being something that was kind of thrust on our community. I don't know where you'd put many small plants. Where would we find the land for that? But nonetheless, I think we need to have a triple bottom line approach. That means people, planet, and profits, making sure that those are also criteria that we include in this. 21st century technology, we want to make sure this takes us forward a long way. Again, there is a role here for the province to play, bringing some expertise from the government as well to work with the CRD. But we also have to respect our local elected officials to carry out their duty. We need to support them. And I want to make sure this is a healthy partnership between us and our local government. Thank you.
Our final question on the topic of sewage treatment, a question again that comes from those in the community. Given that many out there have submitted questions that involve concerns with the Capital Regional District's decision-making process and other uncertainties around the project, those who have submitted questions would like to know, do you and your party support pausing the project in order to address some concerns that the community and others have? And we begin another step to the left with Chris Ricketts, Liberal Party.
Thank you very much. I think it's the same thing that we've talked about I think we all agree that we're going to tell them to pause. There was some talk at the CRD that we had to have it done by X date. I believe both the federal and provincial governments have stated we'd rather get it right than get it done on time. I think they would be more than happy to give us more time to truly study it and find the best solution. Maureen was saying, where would these other plants be? I'm looking at the old hydro site in Rock Bay. I don't know if you know that. That is truly an industrial area. It's polluted land, and I'm thinking, why haven't they looked there? We've got a concrete plant. We've got an aggregate recycling plant there. The land can't be used for anything else. It's going to cost them millions and millions of dollars to refurbish the land. I think that's a good place, and I don't know if people have looked at it. There's talk that the City of Victoria does have a site somewhere. It's still fairly close to where they're going to bring the outfalls, and that is truly an industrial area that I think would not have any neighbors that they'd be upset with.
Susan Lowe, Green Party.
I'll first answer the question that was put to me, where would we put the small-scale sites? In 2009, the Ministry of Sustainable Resource Management had a study done that identified, I believe it was 32 separate sites around the Greater Victoria area where a small-scale project like Dockside Green could be built. The Dockside Green sewage treatment plant actually enhanced property values. The condos that overlook the stream, the water feature, they actually overlook part of the sewage treatment. Nobody knows, everybody loves it. So, we firmly support pausing this project in order to address the environmental, social, and economic concerns. As an MLA, I will be a steward for your taxpayer dollars, and I believe it is foolish for the province to remain silent on the CRD's process. I hear that my NDP MP, Randall Garrison, is working on getting an extension for the federal funding, so it is entirely possible for us to slow this right down, have an immediate pause in the procurement process. So I will make this very clear. I want to see this project stopped and put back on track with proper public consultation and evidence-based decision-making.
Maurine Karagianis, NDP.
Thanks very much, Ryan. So I don't think you can pause and go at the same time. If, in fact, we are looking for the very best technologies, we are looking for the very best site, we need to continue pursuing that. So you can't push the pause button and say we're going to try and find those things. Certainly, I talked to Randall Garrison and to Murray Rankin to make sure that our federal dollars are reasonably secure at this point. They will not be there forever, but certainly at this time we do have the time to continue pursuing the best site or sites. We know that the provincial money is there. I believe Chris has said that the dollars will come later in the process. I think they should come sooner in the process so that the taxpayers are not paying, they're not on the hook for this process to continue. We are going to pursue new sites. We are going to pursue better technologies. And I think that's the right and fair thing to do. And while we are looking for that, you can't say we're going to hit the pause button. We need to find the best options. I think the system, the process here is flawed at the CRD, just like all of you. I'm very concerned by the fact that they have made moves without involving and consulting with our community. We need to be looking for better sites, though, than the one we have right now, because Viewfield is not on the ticket for this sewage plant process with the CRD.
Josh Steffler, Independent.
I fully support pausing the project, and I go further in saying that the project is a waste of time and a waste of money. This is a false project, or a false problem designed by bureaucrats that are concerned with image over science. This stands to be the biggest waste of money in the history of our glorious community. This project reeks of government waste and reeks of a complete lack of democracy. The people have already spoken, and yet they're still trying to find a way to push this on us. This is all backwards. The people are supposed to tell the government what to do, not the other way around. We, the people, are the master, and the government is our servant. We cannot afford $1 billion boondoggle right now, and that money will be sucked right out of our economy and make life tougher for families being able to afford to live in our community. If this goes through, there are businesses that will leave the area. There are families that will suffer health problems from the emissions, and there are taxes that will have to rise. You can be sure that I will not be controlled by party ideology or a party whip, and I will stand up for the community and our concerns. Thank you.
I believe this concludes the sewage treatment segment of our program tonight. And the next topic, the next category, does dovetail a bit into what we've been talking about with sewage treatment. You've heard the term CRD brought up quite a lot in that segment of our discussion. So our next question is on governance, and we would like to know if you and your party would make any changes to improve Capital Regional District's major project governance. And we begin that question with Susan Lowe, Green Party.
Thank you, Ryan. So the Green Party would like to work with the government that is formed to make the CRD subject to the municipal auditor's oversight. We need to have the same kind of budget controls and accountability for the regional government as we are seeing brought in for municipal governments. They are spending our tax dollars and they don't have sufficient accountability. Furthermore, I think it's time we started having some serious discussions about the role of regional services in Greater Victoria and determine whether we need a restructuring of municipal and regional government, possibly through the creation of a separate community charter such as the Vancouver Charter. This is one of the reasons why I decided to get into political life and into provincial politics particularly. We need to do something about our regional government, and that needs leadership from the MLAs in the region.
Maurine Karagianis, NDP.
That Josh, he's always turning this thing off. I'd like to say that, first of all, any provincial representative has to have full respect for our elected local municipal governments. They are an autonomous level of government, and I know as much as we want to sort of get involved in the sewage aspect of the CRD planning, I think we have to have full respect for our local officials. Now, there are lots of things we can do at the CRD. I think one thing we should probably talk about and have the discussions at our local government level is having more elected representatives from our municipal councils to the CRD. We can also talk about better procurement practices. There's going to be some changes in procurement practices if the NDP forms government. We really believe in more local procurement, and we are going to mandate that once, if we get a chance to get into government. I also think providing expertise and support and making sure we are supportive partners with the municipal government and the CRD, rather than thinking we have to come in and kind of push them around. The whole purpose of having local government and giving them autonomy is so they can make their decisions and that they are respected. So we need to be supportive partners in the process.
On our question, would you and your party change, try to improve Capital Regional District's major project governance? Next up is Josh Steffler, Independent.
Thank you. I believe that the CRD is a problem and that we should not be allowing them governance. They undermine our municipalities, and I believe that the communities can work collaboratively without being forced by the CRD to get these projects done. We don't need another level of unelected government dictating to the community what we will do. Having people that do not live in the community make decisions for those communities is a recipe for disaster and unhappiness. If the CRD cannot convince the community that an idea or a major project is worth supporting voluntarily and collaboratively, then it's probably not a good idea. Forcing people to participate creates dissatisfaction and more apathy. Do we want people to be more engaged? Then we need to talk to them and listen to them rather than forcing communities and municipalities on what to do. Thank you.
And Chris Ricketts, Liberal Party.
Thank you very much. I think the challenge with the CRD, it's got big. It's got really big. We started off and it was doing regional triennials, regional parks, and it was great because we needed someone that could put that thing on in one hat. But now we've got two mayors here tonight, Barb Desjardins from Esquimalt and Carol Hamilton from Colwood, that knows how hard it is to get our voice heard at that table. So I'd like them to see them have a better way of weighting it for all the growth that's coming out to the West Shore, Esquimalt, View Royal, Colwood, Langford. We got to have more of a say because this is where the growth is. That was mandated by the CRD. We got to have a better way of saying it. I would like to see everyone on the CRD board elected by us. Right now, I think Esquimalt or Victoria and Saanich elect their CRDs. Everyone else is appointed by that municipality. So I think when we have a municipal election, you stand to be the representative from your municipality on that board. So you have direct impact and better weighting for the communities in the West Shore where the bulk of the growth is going. Thank you.
And with that, our governance topic is concluded, and we are going to take a short break now. Don't go far, but we'll have about a 5-minute intermission just for everybody to stretch, take a quick break, and there will be refreshments at the back of the room, all proceeds going to the Esquimalt Residents Association. And if you do have a question, if you've been listening and you've got something you really want asked, if you live in another part of the electoral district and you feel you want a question from your area, please do write it onto that card you have. Make sure it's collected, and we will get that at the end of the session.